doing an unethical part. But when you talk about certified ethical hacker, you have all the right and license to kill. Rather, I can say that way. You have all the licenses to kill and talk the language which a hacker does. So which will actually make people understand how hacking happens. And Saurabh, one thing which I would like to say is today technology is so paramount and important that all the chartered accountants, whether it is a member in practice, whether it is a member in industry who's a CFO, CEO, CXO, whoever, plus the young students who are actually forming part of our entire curriculum. We have close to 10 lakh students, 3 lakh members. And I think there are very few people who are out of the technology part. But they are again dependent indirectly on the technology, and everyone has to understand the critical aspect of this technology. You will be, just to give you an statistics, office of a chartered accountant runs on a simple desktop which is having internet connectivity, and there are offices which are LAN based connectivity, and there are certain offices which is server based technology, and there are some firms which have actually adopted cloud also. So all these four portions, whether you talk about an individual desktop or a laptop to a cloud, actually the entire relevant data is relevant matter is the data which is lying. And a hacker is actually a person who walks one step ahead of technology, and that's why he is actually a hacker, because he understands or she understands very effectively what hacking means and how, which is the important data which has a value, right? So point is, what extent we are able to do it, how we are able to do it. We need to be understanding the fact is, I don't want to be an hacker or an ethical hacker or a certified ethical hacker, but at least I should know whom should I contact in such kind of scenarios. There are people around, but we are not technology oriented people. But we are the people who are put at loss. Our clients are the people who are put at loss. Today, when you talk about small retail stores which are across the city or might be multiple locations, whatever may be, and we are doing audit. So my funda was very clear, was basically either you know or you know who know. So the point is very simple. If you don't know, at least you know the person who knows this. So the point today we are expecting or learning, would like to learn from you is, what is the nuances which a person at a general level has to understand, and what are the critical points which we need to keep it in mind, might be recorded or put it on a whiteboard next to us, that these are certain things which we need to really look into. So with this, I do not like to talk more. As Pankaj Bhai rightly said, we would listen to, and the best part, Pankaj Bhai, thanks to Bell Saab, that he has got a technology person for all of us. He has got a technology person for all of us who is not a chartered accountant. We have been getting chartered accountants to talk to chartered accountants. This is, I think, a different way of doing it. A professional, IT professional who's going to come and talk. Might be, I don't know how you are going to convince or make us understand. But yes, I wish you a great success, and welcome to the institute for your. I think it's an opening lecture you are going to give in the institute. So look forward, and thank you very much for joining from Amsterdam. And with one of the largest companies of the country, we feel proud about Infosys, TCS, and all such big companies, and you are part of that organization. So you make us feel proud that an Indian person is going to train an entire fraternity of chartered accountants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. I'm definitely I'm feeling very glad at this moment to hearing such words, right? That being an Indian and working in Amsterdam, definitely it's a good feeling, right? When you work for your country.
Yes.
So, Mr. Saurabh, very quickly, I'd like to introduce you, because most of the people would love to know who you are. I know you have an excellent profile. I'll just not take much time. I'll just pick up few points from there and read out for the benefit of our members. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Saurabh Kumar, who is a Bachelor of Technology from JNTU University, Andhra Pradesh, India. He is a certified ethical hacker with over 7.3 years of experience in IT industry as information security consultant that includes vulnerability assessment of web applications, both internal and external. He has expertise in handling various security appliances, consulting services in application security, penetration test, vulnerability assessment, security awareness trainer. He is proficient with manual and automated scanner approaches. He is presently working with Infosys Limited and has previously worked with IBM, TCS, and Accenture. He is a Cisco certified network associate. He is currently working for banking web application project and vulnerability assessment and penetration testing on web applications assessment manual technique for security assessment. I can say he is everything what a computer expert should be. I don't want to go beyond that. I present Saurabh to the August audience. Sir, over to you. And sir, before we just say, I am near the system only. I'll generally keep my video off for the good bandwidth connection. So anything, I'll just comment it. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I am very much glad to be part of this family. I'm feeling proud that I'm actually here to share my views about information security. Right, as I am much expertise in this skill, so I definitely would like to talk more about it, as it's been one of my key areas that I've been working upon. Right. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We can quickly start, and I can also explain you what exactly I do and what I have done in my past and how I've started into the security industry. So maybe you can say I was just a normal guy, like the engineer in the college days, so like go out, hang out with friends and parties. Then I got placed into the Infosys, and then the first company was Infosys, and then I got it to Mysore for training. And then I was trained on Java. Then I got a chance to work on security project in Bangalore. Then I started enjoying it. I started liking the flavor of the security, but there was nothing much for me to do there as I was a fresher. So I started building my own skills by attending the trainings, by watching the videos. So that's how I've grown myself, and I've learned. And then I thought, maybe I'm liking the flavor, so why can't I go for some certifications? So that's how I started. I started with Cisco networking certificate first, to understand more about the networking layer. And then I started preparing for certified ethical hacking. So there I've completed that as well. And then Accenture gave me a beautiful chance to work on more of application security side. So that's how I've started there, and then worked there for 2.5 years. Then I thought, maybe it's a time now to take a switch. So I had a couple of offers in my hand that time, so I preferred joining TCS as one of the biggest, largest organization of India. I joined TCS, and unfortunately, I did not like the work because it was, again, kind of fresher roles, which I do not want to do it again, what I've done in my past. Then I joined IBM. I had to make a move from Bangalore to Pune. I came to Pune, then I started exploring a lot of things. I started exploring the APIs, the networks, started exploiting the database. So that's why I got a lot of interest towards it. Then I worked there for 2.5 hours. Even after getting a lot of offers from other companies, I preferred to be in IBM itself. And then after some time, then situation came. The situation was like for me to send it to Amsterdam from my previous employer. Again, it was Infosys. They offered me to travel to Amsterdam for one of the best client for Infosys, that is ABN AMRO. And that's how I'm here. And as you say that, it's a proud moment for any Indian, right, to work for a country and you represent yourself. You say you are from India, right? You in Europe, people say, okay, this guy is from India, right? So that is a good moment for us. So let's give a big applause for that we are saving the country. So it's just a proud feeling for us. So guys, this is pretty about me. I think so that's how it's about my journey. And I understand that, yeah, technology is taking a good turn these days, right? I mean, we are we guys don't have to carry even debit card these days, right? You can simply have a mobile phone in your hand and you can make the payments with mobile, right? No need to carry a wallet. Even to make it even easier, there is something called as the Wi-Fi chip, which is present in your debit card. You just have to enable it and no need to even insert your debit card into the machine. But yeah, there's again a drawback. We guys think that, okay, it's fine. I mean, we just go and we tap the card and come back. But if you take my opinion, we should not offer this technique, because I feel because you have a credit card or debit card in your wallet. Somebody, some thief or some hacker or anyone who is trying to steal your money comes behind you and simply touches the machine to your back, and that's how the money get deducts. You guys being in such a position, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody is well educated here. So even we are so much educated, but we will not be able to determine how the fraud actually happened. But it's just us. We never understood. We thought it's just, yeah, we're going with the flow of technology, and right. So we had registered for the facility where we can just tap the debit card and we can swipe. So to minimize the loss, government has decided to tap without PIN should be for 2,000 rupees now. I don't know what the exact price in India as of now, where you can tap your card for without PIN. When I was serving in India, I was aware that it's just 2,000. So that's how they minimize the risk, because to make your life easier, we need to, technology strong. We need to use a lot of other products given by the bank, by the other vendors, right? So I would definitely suggest you one thing. Whenever we move into the technology side, we cannot blindly trust it that, yeah, it's 100% secure, right? So that's why I'm here. So I can give you some ideas that I think should be useful for you in your future. So I would like to present my screen. Let me do it right away. Right. So web application security program.
It's not visible. Not at visible, just in case.
Not at visible.
I think you have to open and then click on share screen.
Okay, I'll do that now. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, perfect. Then I'll start the slideshow. Yeah. Here we go.
Yes, it's coming.
Perfect. Right. So web application security program, what it means, why you need it, right? Wherever you go, you have a web applications. You have a bank, you have a web application. You give your credentials through the web application or through the mobile. So web application plays a major role in technologies. You go and order, you can order anything from the market. No need to go to the shop, right? You can simply go and log into the application and you can click and you can get the order online available for you. It sounds very good. It sounds interesting. For me, for you, that it's nice. We are actually improving our lifestyle, right? We are moving ahead of technology, but we are not aware of the flaws behind it. We feel that it's to make our life easier. We have the application security consultants available for any organization. So that's why we come into the picture to make sure that your money should be in the safe hand. It should not go to any hacker, any person should not be able to misuse your money. Your hard-earned money should be with you. Right, guys? So let's move to the next slide of it. So let's begin. As you see, 75% of attacks are at the application level. That is, this data is given by the Gartner. So they are the security providers. I mean, they give you the data count, right, from the security perspective. So according to them, 75% of attacks are actually at the application level. And you would be amazing, you feel, oh my God, how is this possible? 75% of attacks actually, just by clicking here and there, and I'm actually vulnerable to a system. Yeah, so we would talk more on that part. But before reaching to that part, I want you to be aware that how the security plays a major role in your web application, in your daily life, right? And 95% vulnerabilities are in software. Sounds amazing. That's why, I mean, I always ask my father, my sister, not to use Windows 7 laptops. That is why, if you guys are using it, please stop using it. It's 100% vulnerable. Anybody, any black hat hacker can actually make a backdoor entry to your system. So as you said, you as a chartered accountant, you will just have the system, right, in Office, and you log into the system. So make sure to not use Windows 7 because it's 100% vulnerable. It's very easy for any attacker to get into your system, to steal your information, which could be a dangerous part for any user who is associated with a particular information, right? And 7 out of 10 websites have serious vulnerabilities. That's thank God to White Hat Security. That is plays a again major role. They are based out of from UK. So the top vulnerabilities covers. I have a slide for that. I would talk about it maybe after some time. So maybe these vulnerabilities, these flaws, can actually give me the complete access of your application, even to steal your credit card details, your debit card details, even to make the funds transfer. I make a transfer of 1,000 rupees, I can convert it to 10 lakhs and the deduction will be only of 1,000 rupees. That also is possible. And how do we do it? In a real life scenario, I will definitely show you. Before going to the scenario, I would take that example from Make My Trip, I guess. There was a person who used to buy a ticket, flight ticket for 10,000, and he will definitely go and use a proxy, change the amount to 1 rupee, and the deduction of would be just 1, where he has purchased a ticket of 10,000. So this kind of fraud happened recently, not recently, in my when I was working for Infosys in 2013, I have encountered this same scenario happening with the Airtel as well. There was no foundation, no checks. So people used to recharge the mobile phone just by making a payment of 1,000, and you stop the proxy in between, and you change the amount to 1 rupee, and you send it to the server. So now your phone is actually recharged with 1,000, but the money deduction is just 1 rupee. So again, it's a loss for the organization. So that's how we have measured this structure from the Gartner, from NIST, from White Hat Security. So guys, what is web application security according to you? As I mentioned, right, it plays a major role. Web application security, we have defined in a very large manner by OWASP, by SANS guidelines, where you would find the CVE are actually registered, and we have named them as a vulnerability. I have a slide for it. I will definitely cover it maybe after 5-10 minutes of my show. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah.
Nothing, sir. No one. Just carry on. No problem.
Oh.
Anything is there, I shall come in the screen and tell you, and you can continue. And I request all the viewers to just put any Q&A in Q&A section only and not in chat. And yes, sir. Sorry, you can continue. I'm here only, sir. Don't worry. Anything, I'll come and tell you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So guys, what we have? Web application security, we have antivirus, we have vulnerability scans, we have server security, we have IDS, IPS, patch management, what these are actually, right? Antivirus, some people say that why I need to pay for it. I mean, I can easily, get a free version. I can install on my system. I can run it. But are we safe? No. Why the company charges a lot on the antivirus to run on your systems? Because there is a virus which is hidden somewhere in any of your folder and is actually targeting all your critical information which are being saved in your system. So you guys said that you have only one system in the office where you are just with the system and with the LAN, and you are surfing and you're working for the country. You are helping a lot of people from the CA perspective, right? Then you would be having a lot of access as well. And I don't want that access to go in the wrong hands, right? So the antivirus, right, plays a very major role to scan all your virus that can even corrupt your data, right? Then the vulnerability scans, what these are scans are all about. We have different scanners available in the market. We have HP45, we have IBMAP scan, we have PerpSuite, we have Accunalytics, right? So these scanners plays a major role once the application goes to the production, right? So before the application hits to the production, we scan these applications on these scanners to make sure that there is no vulnerability present. Any of the company would not like to take a chance, where the vulnerability is actually present on the production side. You as a bank owner, think from that perspective. You as a bank owner, you have a web application, you have a bank which is about to launch in next month, and you want a lot of people to invest money on your bank because you say that we are offering good services, we are safe, and then someone like from other country, from other zone, hacks your application, right? Your image, you just think the image in the market is actually down, right? You can just think from that perspective. Now, I would not, me as a security guy, I would never recommend any of my relatives or my colleagues to invest money on that particular bank because I feel the bank is not secure. They have not spent on the security side. Security charges a lot of money, but yeah, it also makes sure it gives you the assurance that you are safe from other hackers, right? From the people who are there to give an eye on your every activity you perform on internet, right? So that is why we have such things. We have firewalls now. It's very expensive, right? This actually blocks the unauthorized activity on the network layer. So any unauthorized activity is if it's trying to perform based on the firewall rules we define, right? It can block it. Then we have IDS, IPS, is like intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system. These are again detect. We also place this before firewall because it directly detects it and it will not allow to to reach to the server. Then prevention will only stop it. Okay, any anonymous activity which is actually happening from outside the world to your network, it will prevent it. So that is why we have such security practices in our day-to-day life with the antivirus, scans, server security, firewall, IDS, IPS, and then the patch management comes. Patch management, you guys would be wondering what is patch management. Patch management basically talks about, you guys keep seeing it, the email, please upgrade your phone, right? Please upgrade. We think that no, why need to upgrade it? Why need to based on my internet? Why should I waste the bytes of the internet? But that's the wrong practice again. There's some flaws which has been identified in the previous version, actually patched in the latest version. So that is why the patch management comes to a picture. They patch any flaw which was present, right? So they make sure it should not be there anymore in your next version. So that is why patch management plays a big role. So guys, if you don't do it, I would recommend, please do it. Please upgrade your mobile phones. Please upgrade your Windows, right? Because if any flaw which is hidden, right, which you are not aware. So if you upgrade it, at least you are 50% or 60% safe from outside hackers. That is okay. I mean, I don't think that needs to be covered up because it's basically I can talk a little bit about it. Static analysis is basically the source code of the application, right? I'm just giving you the basic idea about it, right? So we actually scans the code of the application. The dynamic is the dynamic part of it, is the actual interface of the application where the exactly application looks like, right? So that is the dynamic part of it. And then we have the code review done. So, I mean, we always do this practice to make your life easier. Now we keep doing it from our end. We keep training to the developers. We test their applications. We explain to them that hey, don't use this library. I mean, this has got a lot of flaws. And then we follow the secure development lifecycle, SDLC. We follow the agile process because any vulnerability, any flaws which has been arrived, we make sure it should not be there in the next version, in the next sprint they have. So that's why we guys keep doing this practice. We ask the team members to implement a web application firewall. So my application is a bit safer from outside attacks. So this kind of practices, we keep doing it. Or for any doubts, if you guys feel, you can ping me or you can raise your hand. I'm happy to answer. Right. So these are the three misconceptions what we have. That okay, I have purchased a firewall. It will protect my application. No. I have SSL. It will protect my web application. No. I have IDS. It will protect my server and database. No. So let's go one by one. Firewall is only there to protect the network layer. It can only stops the unwanted activities being performed from the outside. That is again, if it is there in the signature. That's the reason we keep upgrading it again, the database. SSL is only to secure your confidentiality. Your application should not travel in the plain text. It should be secure enough. It should be in an encrypted way. So that is why we have SSL in place. Right? IDS, intrusion detection system. It only detects the threat is coming from the outside. And apart from that, it can do nothing. And the database, again, you need to maintain a lot of things. You need to maintain the parameterized querying, right? So there, again, I will not go much technical into parameterized querying, but yeah, I would just give you a brief about it. That there are a lot of developers, right? They write their database just with a generic query. And generic query is something which, where you can simply write any query. You can run any malicious query and it will run into the database. It can fetch all of your information. Maybe it can be your credit card details. It can be your username and password, anything in an application saves on your database. That is your identity. That's how the application manages the database. So basically you have application, you are registered on hdfcbank.com. They have a database where all information will be stored. Right. So database again plays a major role because attackers will definitely target to the database first. Right. To fetch informations like username, password, to fetch informations like credit card, debit card details, etc. So this is why I wanted to cover this database topic. Never think that, right, I just have IDS in place, so my database is safe. No, I can directly hit to your database, I can run my queries, and I can get the information from it. 1 minute, I think. Yeah. Okay, this is a simple example of architecture. Let's say this is a web server and these are the database, and I'll go more into that in the next slide maybe. Yeah. So let's make it bigger. Let's go like this. So this is your database which have all your information saved. So let's say your identity, your Aadhaar card, your PAN card, right? It has all your credit card details. Everything has been saved. This is before managed by the web server. And you go next, and there you go with the internet, right? And now this is the backend part. See, this is the backend part. Why I wanted to focus first, because for you to understand how and where your information is being stored. Right? So now you have a database here, which is being managed by the web server, and then you have the internet. Right? From here, we serve to the web application. My request goes to the web server, and then we have the firewall in between to check whether it's a malicious request and whether it can stop it or not. Then it checks and it forwards again to the web server, and it validates your identity. So again, you can see the SSL connection plays a big role here, because why do we have SSL? Secured socket layer. To make sure whatever credentials I'm giving it is going in an encrypted way, right? I say my username is XYZ, my password is 123, and it goes to the channel in a plain text. Then any hacker will be able to sniff your username and the password. That is why we have SSL in place to make sure your transmission is confidential. It cannot be sniffed, right? So you are actually safe. You can trust it. Yeah, my usernames and password. or passing in a socket layer, so it cannot be sniffed. Even if sniffed is of no use for me. I will not be able to decrypt it. Again, there's a different algorithms we always suggested to upgrade. We have Diffie-Hellman, we have AES encryption, we have RSA encryption in place. So that again plays a major role of it, right? Then you have the IDS IPS. You can see you hit a query, it checks by the firewall, then it have your IDS detects or prevents, then it sends to the web server. So that is the structure looks like. I think there's no much for me to cover it here, right? But I can give you the idea, the web application program, right? I mean, maybe you can start it in your university, this kind of practice, basically to train the normal staff about the security practice, right? We come in the picture in the security testing. And then at the time of deployment, there is a penetration testing, there's a vulnerability assessment, there's a penetration testing is nothing but, again, to test your application from the security perspective, where we try all our malicious codes or queries in your application to check that, yeah, it's actually safe. We try all the payloads which can be tried from outside the world. That is called as pen testing. It can even damage your database, it can even damage your application. That's the reason we always ask for the staging environment, not the production environment. Yeah, so education, of course, I mean, you need to educate the staff about the security. That's what I think we guys are doing here. I mean, we are taking a good knowledge on security perspective, and that would be, for you to take it ahead in the next step, maybe in the next sessions. So, yeah, this again, so security testing is again divided into 3 parts. As I mentioned, I don't have to talk more on this. So it's a static, again, the source code of the application, then the dynamic, the actual interface of the application, the GUI version, that's how the application looks like. Right? This all has to be tested. So we are making sure we are testing the application, we are testing the code behind it, and then we have the peer reviews who are actually being responsible for it. Yeah, that it's good to go on production. We have different standards and compliance in place, right? I mean, we follow the SDLC process. We have the threat modeling where we try to design the architecture, and we try to find out early threats and the vulnerabilities that can actually happen. So this threat modeling takes place before the design phase is completed, right? So you let's say, I would talk in a normal lay term. Let's say you have a plan to build one application. So you would come up with the idea. You would reach out to me that I have a plan. This is what my application is going to do. You will reach out to me. I will design the threat modeling. Okay. So you follow this SSL, right? You have SSL in place or not. If not, then this could be the flaws. You have the database, whether it's parameterized or not. If it's yes, it's fine. If not, then this could be the vulnerable threat. So etc. So these are the early finding for any application to make it more stronger. So we follow these practices. Again, the standards and compliance come to the picture. The PCI compliance, that's the payment card industry for all the debit card transactions. You might have seen it. Whenever you make a payment, it goes payment card industry. So these are the compliance checks needs to be present for any application to go live. Yeah. So this is again for the deployment. Deployment in the sense to start the application live for any user to start using it, right? So we do the vulnerability assessment, we find the vulnerabilities, we try to exploit the vulnerabilities, then we have time to fix it, right, before launching the application on the website. So now you guys can think that, right? I mean, how much secure we are. So that is the reason we need to invest more on that part. Here we go. This is one OWASP Stockton I was talking about, one of my favorite topic always, right? So it's Open Web Application Security Project. Basically, it has defined the 10 top flaws which are present in current scenario. Let's go one by one. First is injection flaws. I mean, I will not invest more on this part. But yeah, I would like to explain it to you guys that, yeah, injection clause basically to inject any query to a database. Let's say, as an example, string query, I have mentioned it from the account where the customer ID is. So if I write it right from the accounts, let's say select star from the account, if there is no parameterized querying, then it will actually able to fetch the information of your customer ID from all the accounts which are present in the database. This can be, let's take example of HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank gives you the customer ID, that's right. So I would write it from all the accounts, and there's a way of again doing it. It's just like normal scenario, and I've covered it upon. So you reach out to the HDFC Bank, and me as a hacker, I'm just trying to write these commands. Okay, and you will be wondering where I will be running this command. This can be run on the username and password feed itself. No need to go in depth. You just have the web interface available. I will write it there itself. So it will give me the information of the top 3 users who have actually logged into the application. So these are the flaws. Yeah, again, I mean, yeah, data loss, lack of accountability, and denial of access. Yeah. So prevention, I always say, to validate the input, whatever. That's the reason I keep saying it. Whatever inputs comes, that is why the security team is again in the place to validate all the inputs which are actually coming from the internet, right? So whether it's just a normal username is coming or is coming in a query way. So that has to be validated. Use parameterized querying, yeah, is again mentioned here. The parameterized again it would be it's a way of writing your database. So it's a more secured way of writing a database to manage a database, so that your applications are much secure enough from any injection flaws. Then you have the cross scripting. I mean, this is again one of the top vulnerability I would talk about. This can even steal your cookie. The cookie is responsible for the particular session. If I take a cookie, I would be able to log into the session where you are actually logged in. You sitting at India, I am sitting in Amsterdam. I take a cookie, I place in my cookie jar, and I would be logged in, right? So we have different ways of exploiting these vulnerabilities, and we will be able to fetch the cookie which is actually responsible for your complete session. That is the reason we keep saying it. Do not maintain 2 sessions. You might have seen it before. You are already logged in. Please log out from the previous session. That is why we have it this. And again, we always force any developer to stop the cookie. The cookie should be immediately terminated once you log out. That cookie should not be useful again. Let's take in a more specific way. In a layman term, I would say there's a cookie responsible for our application. It should not be reused. It should be immediately terminated, right? Once we surf onto the internet. So let's say me log into the HDFC Bank. I have a cookie associated. Once I log out, this cookie should be of no use. Should not be the case where I take the cookie and again I place it in the jar and again it takes me to the same session. No. So that you might have seen a lot of scenarios where you do not touch your machine for 180 seconds and you have been logged out. That is because of time expiry. We set it to make it more secure from the cookie perspective, so that it should get, so your cookie should be terminated, right? It should be of no use. Basically, to log in to the system, to log into any application, the cookie plays a major role. Once you give your username and password, then the cookie will be responsible for the whole application, for the whole session. This is an attack scenario that was mentioned, so I would not mention it. Yeah, so if you see the impact, right, let's say hijacking the user session, as I was talking about, defacing the website, insertion of hostile content. So these all are possible through this cross-site scripting. Is again a very big flaw available in the market. It still stands in the 3rd position in OWASP. So if this vulnerability is present, is a major risk for any application to go live. I mean, anybody will stop the application till the vulnerability is mitigated. Then yeah, session management. I was talking about what is session management. Yeah, I have focused upon that. The session cookies, right? I was talking about. The session should be immediate expired. it should not be reused again. There's again different way of exploiting it. I will not touch upon that part. So to make it confused for you guys, so I'll make it short and simple. So basically, session management is actually responsible for your, for the particular session, and the session, well, you are logged into the session, so you will be assigned with the session cookie that would be responsible for your whole session. If I take the cookie, I put it in my cookie jar, and you're gone. So to prevent it, we have implemented something called as session tokens that will be responsible again. Even if I have taken a session ID, then again I have a session token implemented. So double check for any application. The session token plays again a big role. That token will be valid for the particular session, right? So even if I have hijacked your session cookie, but I will not be able to log in because again you have put one more check, that is session token. That again plays a major role of it. Now let's take an example of it. Let application times out are not set properly. I have taken the same example. Application times out is not set properly. User uses a public computer to access the site. See, it's a big role, yeah? User uses a public computer to access the site. Instead of selecting logout, the user simply closes the browser and walks away. What will happen then? I think you guys will be able to understand what might have happened. Anybody comes back to the system, clicks on the website, is not logged out, it's because there is no timeout set. You would be still shows as logged in. You think that, okay, you have closed the browser, so you're safe. But no, since you do not have any timeout set, any person like me goes and I click the same, I check the browser history. Okay, in the browser history, I see that, okay, the person has recently logged into this website, it's a bank account. Let me just have a try. I click on that and I see, yeah, I got access. Wow, this looks fantastic. Right? There's a reason. I mean, we have the session management plays a big role, to terminate the session immediately, even if it's untouched for 180 seconds. If you close the browser, it should not be of any use. Even if you log out, it should not be used. An impact, of course, there's a severe impact. Of course, I mean, you have the access of the application, you can do the fraud, you can do tremendous things. I mean, you can write any suspicious mail to a very important person, and then you as a normal user will be targeted because this mail has been sent via you, and you see that, hey, I have never written any such mails. Let's say you would say, hey, I never interacted with Pakistan, but yeah, it happened from your account. So make sure so that wherever we go, we log out from the system, right? And we clear the cache and the browsing history if we're using it on the public systems. If it's a person, then also I would advise you to make it cache cleared, right? To delete all your history. Prevention, I would not talk much about it. Basically, yeah. So I would say that to terminate the session, right? Session ID, make a time set. That's what we do these days. This has become a practice, to expire the session after some certain time. This is again the insecure direct object reference. I think this is why I'm taking this example. This vulnerability, right? I mean, I take a very good example. I was working for an organization. Let me share with you guys. I was working for one organization in 2015. That was TCS. We're working for the big bank. It's a World Bank. I would not take the name because I had exploited that vulnerability, and I would not take the name. So it was a World Bank I was working for. And then there is one application I was testing. It was purchasing a product. It's their own application. So basically, what that bank does is, you have a username and password, and your and in other countries, the worst part of other countries, I tell you, India is much secure in this scenario. So other countries, they will never ask your OTPs, right? You just give your credit card details and your money is deducted. So what was happening there, when you log into the application and you have a purchase option, you purchase XYZ, and to check out the page, you write the password and your credit card details are already saved. So I just tried to make a random password, let's say XYZ, and I see that in the response that, okay, it's showing me just the error. The statement is showing as a false. I've just turned it to a true statement and I forwarded it. So what happened was my money was actually deducted. The bank was, the credit card details was present in the testing environment, was actually money was deducted from the account, even giving the wrong password. I've just changed the statement. So it looks very, very small thing. I mean, this is what exactly happens in the real life scenario. You feel that, it's username and password protected, I'm safe. No, again, there's a flaw behind it. It's been done by the developers, right? They feel that, okay, I mean, why to use so many libraries? I can simply make a small statements and let it go to live. And that's how that application was running live. And when I got a chance to test it, I just given the random password, and in the response, I was able to see the false and just change it to the true, forward it, money was deducted, purchase was successful. So that is why these are the business logic flaws where you just play with the logic. To exploit these vulnerabilities, you need to be very clear with the logic, right? What is the logic behind it? You need to see the response. What if you give a wrong password? What is the response you're getting in the response, right? So that is why this is again a very critical flaw. CSRF, you guys, I will tell you guys will be shocked. You keep getting the mails right on your browser. Hey, you have won 1 lakh rupees lottery. You have won 3 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs. So this is how this attack was started. Now it's not part of anymore in the current OWASP guidelines because we have completely mitigated this fraud. But there's some applications that are not aware of this, so you will still find it, but the possibility is very less. It's just why I want to get this information to the picture, because the CSRF, right, cross-site request forgery, means you get just a request, and you get a mail to your account. Hey, you have won a lottery. Please click below. And hey, you might get mail like that your username has been expired. Please click below to give a correct username and the password, right? So this request comes from the attacker to your mailbox directly. You click on that unknowingly, and what happens? The request, let's say it's a bank application, okay? Now me as an attacker, I write a request stating that I want to add myself as a what do you call in the bank? You add a person, right? Beneficiary, right? So I want to add my name as a beneficiary in your account. I hide my request, okay, in the backend, and I create a frame. On the top, I would mention it. Hey, your profile looks amazing. Please click below to claim the lottery, to claim the prize. And unknowingly, you have clicked it, but you are not aware what is there in the behind. Behind is the code what I've written it to your bank browser, to your bank application, so that I should be added to your bank account. You clicked it, and I'm added. Next request again, I send it to send money. You click it, money is transferred. That is why a lot of banks, we think that why do so many OTPs I keep getting it? Why I'm frustrated. I get so many OTPs always. Sometimes the OTPs is late, and I want to send the money. So it's a good practice. Don't get frustrated. Use the most secure channel. Yeah, for each request you should have the OTP. So use this way. Okay. So make a practice, not to get frustrated by seeing a lot of OTPs flooding on my mobile number. It's only for you, right? It's for you. So there's a lot of incident happened because of the OTPs, right? People, you might have seen a lot of incident happen from Bihar, where people used to call normal user, say that your debit card is expired, right? And please provide me the debit card details, and there will be one OTP. Please provide me the OTP. You give the OTP, and then that's it. Money is gone. But now to make it secure in that scenario, we have again. That is why once you make an online transaction, when you immediately blocks it, even your money is deducted. Even your money is deducted. Let's say you have 1 lakh rupees of fraud. Okay. Now your money would be stopped at or a service provider, whoever it could be, right? Because they need to because what happens is they need to double check before crediting to other account. So I say make a habit of using NEFT account. It actually takes a time to transfer your funds, right? While talking about IMPS is immediate transfer, so it will not be stopped anywhere. So if it is NEFT or any fund which is actually being monitored, so you call to the bank, say, hey, I have had a fraud transaction just now. Can you please block it? My card and the transaction, I just did it from my account. They will simply block it. And the possibility would be that you can get your money back. But if it's IMPS, the money is transferred. You can't get it back. So these are the big scenarios we see in everyday life, but we are not aware of it. We feel that now IMPS is a good way, right? I mean, so if you buy anything also, because this is one way, but I'm talking about, let's say, hackers or this fraudsters, what they do is they simply, give you a call saying that your credit card is about to expire, and they are actually purchasing a product. So what happens is, that is why when you use a machine and you put your card, right, and the money is debited from the account, even it's debited, it's not credited to the customer, I mean to the merchant account, because it stops, and it happens maybe after a day, after 2 days, whatever the cycle they have, they follow. So even if you've encountered such scenarios where your money is deducted, you have made a fraud transaction, don't get frustrated, don't fear about it, right? No need to frighten, and then simply call up your bank saying that, yeah, I have a fraud transaction. So they will immediately block the amount and they will send the amount back to your account. So it will not reach to the merchant side. They will verify with the merchant. Is this a current account? There's a reason. Again, they have the team, they have the logs to monitor, they will verify it, and they will send back your amount. Security misconfigurations could be anything. I mean, I don't think I need to focus this upon, because this is something more from the security side, to talk about the frameworks, application servers, and the web servers. So not to focus much on this. Cryptographic storage. Again, I was talking about, you might have encountered it. Let me take in the scenario. You log into a web application, you log into your bank account, right? You give your username XYZ and password 123, and it becomes big. Have you ever seen it? You might have observed it. And if you're not, you can try it today. You give your username and the password expands. Why? Because there is a hash value which are being added to it, right? So attacker will not be able to understand, because hashing is something which can never be get it back. When it talks about encryption, it can be decrypted even if there are weak algorithm being used. But hashing is something, if my database, if I'm using a hash password, even if I sniff it, I cannot do anything. I can never get back into the normal plain text. So this is a good way. So use those banks which uses your password in a hashing way. It's a very easy way of testing it. You hit a password, it becomes a string, and you will be able to understand, yeah, it's a hash password. So there are a lot of flaws again related to hashing, and I would not touch those flaws, because it will be it's like the different ways of cracking the hashing again. We have the rainbow tables where we try to break the hash into the plain text. But if it's a not upgraded version, right? So we always recommend to go for SHA-256 bits hashing. If it's a low bit hashing, it could be dangerous. So that is something internal we do it, but from outside, like any user who is not aware of the security side of it, they would definitely. So there's again, to make it more stronger, your password, the server actually adds one salt value to that, right? The salt value is again adding extra values to your password to make it even more stronger. So these kind of practices we keep doing it from backend, so that you can sit quietly and you can simply have a good sleep at night. So that is one way. Yeah, impact is definitely same. I mean, stealing of your personal data, credit cards, and any records. Yeah, I don't think I need to check this because guys, please, if you get any suspicious mails, don't click on that, right? Always check a mail. Always check the mail that says that ICICIbank.com. What they do is they hide it, and you feel that the bank is coming from the ICICIbank.com, but it's not. Basically, they have just changed the interface of it, and it's looking like the bank is coming from the ICICIbank.com. But if you go and check on the top, it's not ICICIbank. It's just ICICIbank@123.com. So we always, I mean, we keep doing this practice to restrict these URLs. So, but again, I'm just giving you the live scenario, but whenever you get any mail to your bank regarding to your bank account, you change your password on Facebook, Twitter. So please have a look to the email and see that, yeah, this is a legitimate email. It's actually coming from the ICICI Bank. The domain is @ICICIbank.com. If not, stop it, delete it, forget it. Yeah, this I will not touch upon this. It's more on the security side, but to make it, I will give you a small scenario. To make it your transaction in a more secure way, right? We have the transport layer. So this also we need to set up on. We said that we report it as a flaw when we do not find it. So we keep testing these scenarios, and we keep addressing it from the backend. Yeah, unvalidated and redaction in the forwards. Again, this is again a big thing. You are not aware what is actually happening. You might see sometimes you might encounter some scenarios where you get a link which will, once you open the link, it will look as it is, like a let's take a gmail.com. Okay, you have a link on your email, and it looks like a gmail.com. Once I click on that, I think that it's a Gmail address. I think I need to change my username and password. I insert my username and passwords, and it redirects to some other web page, right? We check this as well again. So please, so to come across from these scenarios, to prevent ourselves from these scenarios, what we can do is suppose we get some emails like let's say to change your password, and I open that, it opens like a Gmail page. Please see the address again on the top of the URL section, whether it's just an IP address or it's actually the gmail.com. Please make a habit of doing it. It's just a minute effort, but it can make life easier. So that's what I got, the tagline, right? Security is a journey, not a destination, right? It never ends. We have taken a journey, so keep traveling it. We will keep getting you the latest information. You keep getting latest threats, everything in your day-to-day life. One person or other person tries to exploit new vulnerability, and you guys would keep getting the information just by reading the blogs or maybe subscribing to some channels. Yeah, these are these are tools. I think I no need to work upon that. It's just for training tools. So these are like I was talking about. These are the scanning tools. Who scans the application? IBMap Scan, Web Inspect, Neater, Spider, Hellstorm, and White Hat. These are the tools which plays a big role again. These are expensive tools. We have it, which actually scans your application, and to make sure that application is actually running in a safer hands. Again, these are the tools for web application firewalls. We use it. So, you might encounter these names. Citrix.com. Your payment is going via Citrix, Checkpoint, Cisco. So these are the assurance we get it from these companies. The firewalls provided by them. Yeah, you can. I mean, you can get some information about if you want to read more on the OS top 10 side. You can definitely log into the www.os.org. You can get some information about it. If you want to read more, you can do that. And SANS is again, they also have 25 vulnerabilities listed, but these are the two standard vulnerability platforms which we follow. OWASP is the topmost, and then it comes to SANS. So guys, this is pretty me about me. I think I have not made you bored. So I think I was not that fast and not made you bored. I think I given you the good information. That's what I feel. And you are now happy to ask me any questions you have.
Yeah, thank you. It's not, you can't call it bored, Saurabh, but definitely scary. Just was thinking, was the barter system best? Okay, you give me 10 kg rice, I'll give you 5 kg wheat, and the matter ends there. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just joking. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. So what is happening is we have the questions put in Q&A, and because you can see the Q&A below. What I will do is you can also see the questions, but I will read out the questions so that the viewers can also listen to the question and then you can answer. That way what happens is you'll also get a small few seconds relief. You've been talking for so long, and people can also get the question. If you can stop sharing the screen, I think both of us can see it in a bigger way. Yes, yeah. So I'm just taking the first question. This is from Suresh Kotta Venkata. Dear team, while subscribing to cloud-based application, what type of security related questions needed to be asked and certifications needed to be seen?
Okay, so basically, now all the servers are actually hosted on the cloud side, right? So to make life easier, before it was we need to set up the environment. Now we have the cloud in place where it gives you the containers, everything in place. So the security questions, the cloud is again depends the which cloud you are into. Is AWS or Azure or some IBM cloud, right? So they have their own protection way of protecting it. So let's talk about from AWS perspective. They are more into security side. It's more complicated for you to understand that. As me working on the cloud side of it, I work on Azure and AWS now. So the security questions, right? We have the controls in place from the cloud perspective. We keep checking the controls. We do the threat modeling to launch any application, to go any application on live. We do the threat modeling. We prevent it from the different controls like the access controls, and we also monitor the logs. So we have the monitoring in place, logging in place, where all the logs being monitored. So this kind of practices we follow, we do it in a cloud environment. Now this is actually, I feel is so this is actually, I feel, way I feel, because we are actually trying to secure the environment in the design phase itself. So before building the application, we try to make it secure by doing the threat modeling, by setting up the different controls. We have it for cloud. So that's is way protective. So it's good to go in the cloud if you use it on AWS or on Azure.
Sir, I'm just, we had been requesting not to send questions in the name of anonymous attendee. So I'm skipping this question. I'll go to the third question from CA Rohan Kopparauri. Antivirus is also said to acquire our personal data from the system. So how to overcome this side of vulnerability arising because of using an antivirus software?
Okay. You need to trust the brand. Okay, you are buying an antivirus from McAfee. You are buying antivirus from Microsoft. right? You need to trust the brand. They have nothing to do with your details, right? I understand that, yeah. You have made a transaction through your credit card or debit card, but being a brand of Microsoft, even is expensive. It's expensive. They will not do the fraud. So do not consider this as a flaw, because this is a brand's. If you consider these brands as a flaw, then I mean we'll not be able to use these products. I mean they will not do the fraud with your transaction. So you are safe.
Thank you. I'll go to the next question from Parmi Shamsundar Sivdu. What is the latest version in Windows available in India? 10.
Okay. Windows 10, you can use it. It's a more secure way again. It's available now. Yeah, yes. You can use that. I always suggest to do the banking transactions are more secure on the mainframe side, but you can also, if you have any suspicious activity to perform it, please use help using it on Linux. It's more secure.
So the next question is from Prasad Palukuri. Is there any website audit? If yes, who are authorized to do and certify about security and safety?
Okay, right. Good question. So every organization have their audits. You as a college, you have your own auditors, right? So we our application, we have the auditors inside the organization. They might come as from outside organizations like KPMG, PwC, and EY, right? They are the auditors. They come and perform the sudden audit on your application. If they find it not compliant, they mark it red. And again, it's a huge penalty that organization has to bear it.
Thank you. And I'll take the next question from Shivateja Kondara. How do we know that websites are safe and protected? Does HTTPS:// is enough to conclude that website is safe?
I mentioned in my beginning itself. HTTPS is just to secure the confidentiality. It means you are on SSL side, right? Again, you are running on HTTPS doesn't mean that your application is secure. Again, there's a flaw inside your application. Even any application which is on SSL, there's a different flaw to attacking a database. If there's an input field check, you can write your queries and it can get injected. It can run over it. So HTTPS only play one thing, that your credentials being passed in a secured way, in an encrypted way. So even if it's sniffed by an attacker, it would be of no use because it's not in the plain text.
I'll take from next question is from Sandeep Bhandari. If IDS protects from anything coming from outside, then why is it not able to protect web application?
Okay, I always mention IDS, IPS firewalls is always there to protect the network side, not the web application. It protects the web application intrusion detection system. It detect, right? Then prevention, it prevent. The rule we set, the rules we follow in the organizations. Again, there's a team behind it, works 24/7, keeps monitoring the unauthorized events which are actually takes place from outside the world. There are a lot of different payloads. Which I give you a simple example. Single quote, just a single quote is a big payload for SQL injection. If you in a search page or in an adding page, if you write the single quote, it can harm your database if it's not parameterized. Just example. I don't think you should not even try it because it should be registered by the security event management team. They would definitely figure it out. That's okay. Someone is trying to perform a suspicious activity, is trying to throw some payloads that could actually harm the application. So if you do this 3-4 times, they can trace your IP and they can reach out to you.
Thank you. The next question is from Prasad Rao JVV. How does one know whether the transaction done on internet using debit or credit card or net banking are not unsafe?
Sorry, I did not get the question. What is the question?
How does one know whether the transaction done on internet using the debit / credit card / net banking are not unsafe? So
I mentioned that's a standard. we have set it, right, to make any payments, right? Payment card industry, PCI, DSS. You always see that whenever you make a payment, it goes via there's a small logo on the top or the down. You will see this is going in the SSL via PCI So it means these are standards have been set for any applications, to make these banking transactions to make it more secure. So if it is on PCI DSS or any other standards, it's safe.
Yes. The next question is from Suresh Kotta Venkata. In web application architecture, application vendor will maintain firewall or end user needs to maintain. And in IDS or ISD also, is continued with the question.
See, end user has to do nothing with that. I mean, we are just the consumers, right? We just consume the service. If we only have to buy the products, then what is the use of being a consumer, right? So the team, also the organization responsible for it, they deal with that. They get a firewall, they get a honeypot, they get an IDS, IPS in place. So it's their headache. We have nothing to do with that. We do not have any control on it.
What is the full form of API is the next question.
Application is interface, okay, right.
So how can we remove the cookies automatically is what something.
How can you remove the, okay, you might have seen it. I mean, it's easy. You go to your browser settings and there is a cookie being saved. So best easy way, if you want to try it, you can try it right now. You can click F12 and you see the source code of it. There's a storage section down to it. There you would see the cookie being saved. So you can sniff from there.
So I think because the questions are flowing, Saurabh, I'll rather just continue with it and let the person try it. The next question
Saurabh,
is from
Pankaj bhai, just Saurabh, if you listen to all the questions, you can imagine we have close to 350 plus members who are still active. Because every one of us are actually realizing a fact that, there is a lot of gap which is there. Okay, existing, there is a lot of gap which is there, and we are trying. And even the questions might be sounding little, simple and, what do I say is basically, I don't know. But it might be very little kiddish or something. But, the intention is that, we need to read or understand this all things. Whether it is API, whether it is any other part, which is impacting every individual in the process. These are the questions which are coming in. Ultimately, these are all things which are going to impact going forward on the well-being of the profession also. So there is a lot of things which we need to really look into and move on with. Pankaj bhai, are you there?
Yeah, there. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, please.
Definitely. I can imagine it, right? Me sitting at that place, even I would come with thousands of questions at a time.
So when you come for income tax returns, you will come like the same stage.
1,000 questions I come back. How can I save my money? Yeah, that's right.
I'll take the question of Chetna Gupta. How do we know the web applications we are using are secured, like cloud-based softwares where we store all our clients' critical data?
First of all, we need to understand that we do not store anything on the client side. Client side is just the browser. Saving is not done at the client side, it's done in the database side, whether it's saved on the cloud side or in the database, right? So based on the standards of the application, the trusted application, which are, do not simply buy any product from unknown applications, which is actually come to the market. If you use e-commerce, go to Flipkart, buy it, Amazon, buy it, right? Paytm, use it. But any application says that, okay, hey, you have a mobile phone available. For 10,000, it's like 5,000 is a discount. Don't simply go and put your credentials there. It could be unsafe. That can be maybe they can use it later on, or whatever the intention in the mind. So you always trust the trusted vendors, and we are safe. They have the security team in the back end. They pay a lot to security teams, so they are safe. As I was showing you some scenarios where what we test. This is just very, very small topics which I covered it. And a lot what we test on the back end.
And continuing the question of Chetna Gupta, what process is followed by the software development team if database is hacked by third party for reason? Let's suppose if the firewall is not able to identify it as threat, will they be able to check the flow, how their data got hacked, and what corrective actions are taken?
Okay. Okay, good question. So, see, first of all, we need to understand to hack the database is a big challenge. We have n number of users. Okay. If my database is hacked, I definitely go and say, hey, my database is hacked, kindly change your credentials, change your username and password. So either it's been hacked, my username and passwords are changed. So I'm safe. So again, to hack the complete database, it takes years for any hacker to do it. I can actually hack account, not the whole database, but that is a question, right? So I would love to answer this. So Chetna, that answer would be if this firewall is to prevent. So there's a ongoing activities is being happening on the server side. Let's say on the Flipkart, there's a user who's keep on sending the payloads. As I've given one example of when a single quote, if the person is keep on sending the payloads, he would be triggered. He would be stopped there itself. To hack the complete database, you need to send at least work for a year to take the complete access of database, and I would be stopped. So hope this answers your question.
And next I'm combining the two questions from Chitrapu Venkat Suryam and Sandeep Bandari. Chitrapu asks, what is hash password? Please give example. And which Sandeep Bandari also is asking, what is salted hash?
Okay. Hash is something which we add as a string to a password to make it large. So your password is XYZ. We made some string from the server, web server. So it gets added to it. So it's become a non-readable string for me. And the salt is again to make it more secure. We add extra values to it. So that is salt, right? So it's now hash is something which can never be, decrypt, right? So like encrypted way, if you have the private key or public, you can decrypt or encrypt it. But here in the hash, there's nothing as such. You hit a password. If it is hashed, even if I sniff it, you will not be able to get back to the plain text.
The next question, I don't think, but I'm just reading out. If you want, you can avoid answering this. HDFC has got a cryptophobic passport, but why SBI is not having the same? I think SBI has to decide that.
No, everywhere is cryptographic, so no need to comment. I think whoever asked it, but yeah, all the banking web applications, even if it's a government bank, SBI is definitely safe. They have a big security team sitting in Mumbai. I was also interviewed once for the organization, so I'm aware of it. So they pay a lot to the security industry and with the house as well. So understand how much they invest on a security. So nothing to worry.
Pankaj bhai, one important value add here for the answer is Hyderabad has the main center of the Reserve Bank of India Society, which is called IDRBT at Masab Tank, right? And that is the largest body in the country today. Any security options which are there has to be vetted and approved by IDRBT. If IDRBT doesn't do it, that means they cannot launch a particular security process. So there are a lot in the banking industry, particularly IDRBT plays a very critical role, and all the whatever today we are seeing is only output of the research and development is happening at IDRBT. And all the banks have to follow a particular standard up to which that is compulsory to be followed. Beyond that, if they want to do something, they can do it on their own. So that is not a problem. But just for information that people should know that the main hub of the entire research and development of Reserve Bank of India is housed in Hyderabad. Thank you.
And very near to Institute. Yeah. The next question is from C.A. Sivaram Krishna. Dear sir, is there a certification course available for becoming an ethical hacker?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the market, you can start up with you can go with the SaaS certification. If you want to be offensive side, you can go with offensive Kali Linux certification. You can go with the C8 certification. It's provided. So it's given by the EC Council. It's a lot. You can explore it.
There are a couple of very interesting movies also which has come. So you should see that.
Yes.
And thereby this question, I think you should answer. Will ICA launch a course on ethical hacking for members and students?
Mukesh bhai,
There you're, I think we lost you. I'll continue. Yeah, we got you back. Yes, there.
yeah.
There, I think we're losing you. Your connectivity.
Can you read the?
Thereby, what is happening is the moment you're trying to answer, you're losing your connectivity or something like that. I'll just go with, there you settle down. I'll take another question. How secure is using a virtual machine or a VPN to access banking sites?
VPN, always need to understand, is a virtual private network set by any servers. So it's set by from where the network is actually being managed. So it's always securing way of using it, because to log into any network, they create a VPN, virtual private networks, and they give you the small password. You enter it and you reach to their network, and that's how you become safe. So they do not give you the normal login to simply surf it from any public IPs or any public account. So you have to reach to their network first. So your validation would be there in that virtual network. So it's one of the best way of preventing your applications from attacks. Any attacker will not be able to reach it because this is not under the VPN.
There you're back. You'd like to say, when are you launching a course?
I'm back.
So,
sorry, what was the question?
When will the ICA launch a course on ethical hacking for members and students?
So I wanted Mr. Manu Agarwal to be there, who is the chairman of Digital Accounting and Insurance Board. I am the vice chairman. When we could actually do a certification course for blockchain, will surely come out. We are actually working out. There is a lot being done behind. We are designing the entire forensic standards, and that particular chapter has a chapter of digital forensics involved, which includes ethical hacking also. So just wait for a couple of more months, rather 2 or 3 months.
The next question is from Giridhari M. At what intervals we have to format the system?
Whenever you see that your system is going slow, or it's getting stuck, it's getting hanged, so make a habit of doing it in every week. So this is good.
Yeah. And Sarang Shah, if there is a pop-up saying your network is not secure, what steps one can take to make it more secure?
You cannot take any steps.
Nothing we can. Just come out of the system. Come out of the site.
It's running on the HTTP environment. That's why it shows you the error that it's not secured. So you cannot do anything.
No, most probably Sarang would like to know, when they are talking, when the pop-up is it referring to LAN or internet or Wi-Fi, or how does find out the same?
Basically, whenever we start a web application, we need to start with the SSL first. We buy the SSL. So it means the user, the provider has not purchased the SSL. He's not invested on the SSL side.
And the question from Harsur Srinivas is also the same thing, but he has continued saying that, see, again, it's normal thing that we get a notification when we open any sites in Google Chrome or any browser that the site isn't secure because of SSL certificate missing. The question is it safe to transact our shared data with those websites?
Okay. If you give the credentials, it is, of course, can be sniffed, and it is just a plain text. Anybody, it goes as a 1, 2, 3. It will show in the layer passing as 1, 2, 3. It's never secured because it's a plain text. Any big applications, the financial applications will never allow you to run the application on the SSL side. You will not get the certification. So if you're just a normal user, it's just for playing purpose. You have some games or some application associated, then you can do it. But as you say, I mean, big financial applications will never run on HTTPS, without HTTPS, sorry.
Next question from Manoj Sahu. saving passwords in Google, what measures we should take to get protected from password theft in addition to firewall, antivirus, and web security?
Keep changing your password with the with the timings. Keep changing it for 20 days, 35 days, but it's secured. Of course, it's there on the Google Drive, so it's a trusted partner. But still, if you have a doubt, you can keep changing it, and you can implement the multi-factor authentication. So whenever it logs in from different region, it will always prompt for a username and password. This is a facility now available for even Facebook, Gmail, everywhere. You usually get a prompt, you click the prompt, and that's how it allows you to log into the application. You can do that, multi-factor authentication.
I think the next question is common to most of us on every daily life. While installing the mobile app, they ask to allow to see contacts, camera, location, etc. How safe it is to?
We might have seen in a lot of movies, wherever we are encountered, whatever we're talking, other person can hear it. It's because of the permission we give. The low permission we give, the more secure we are. We keep giving permission, allow camera permitted, allow microphone permitted, allow my any XYZ information is permitted. Now we are not secured. Yeah, but again, so if it's a trusted application, trust it. If it's just a newly launched application, do not give all the permissions to access your camera, location, and your microphone. It can be a theft as well. Later on, it can be identified.
Okay, the question from Murli Krishna. Recently, we have been hearing a lot about SASE standards on web applications. Whether should we add this layer of security to our cloud-based subscriptions? Example, Office 365.
See, I mean, people keep upgrading the channels, so it's like it's SCSC or it's a antivirus. They keep upgrading it, but it's fine. I mean, as of now, we have not encountered anything so that you need to go and upgrade it. So even cloud is again have the own managed because it's just your own cloud, right? You're managing your own infrastructure. So it's maybe why you have designed this cloud. And if your bank is let's say it's hosted on some other cloud, they will take care of it. If it's just on your laptop, I don't think it's necessary to buy.
The next question is from Maitreya GBD. Please explain how a chartered accountant should plan his career in the cyber security and systems audit. Any international courses you suggest us specifically?
I would suggest a lot of organizations, right? Like KPMG, EY, they have the auditors. So I've seen it a lot of times. The CA gets into the cyber security unit. Not exactly the work we do, the offensive side, but yeah, from the auditing perspective, from the PCI DSS, from the channel security, they can be a part of it. There are a lot of courses available. There's a law college as well in Bhopal. You can join there, or else other courses as well. You can CDAC. You can join CDAC. It's a 1-year diploma. You can join there, and yeah, it opens your path towards the cybersecurity.
I think Ashwinder Singh, sir, आपके लिए now this is a new job.
True, sir. True, sir.
And I hope, Saurabh, I'm not delaying you because a lot of questions keep flowing. Are you okay?
So, Pankaj bhai, what we can do is basically we can share this question as we do, and accordingly we can take a call. So what we do, Saurabh, is basically we pull out all these questions and send it to you. You can just reply in 2 liners kind of thing with this. Because if you see some good question, Pankaj bhai, which is real, having...
Yeah, in fact, sort of any specific, I'm just taking from Himanshu, since it's a very common thing today, most of the staff are doing work from home. Can you suggest the steps to maintain the confidentiality of the data?
Lock your system whenever you go. I would suggest do not keep your system unlocked. The rest will be taken care by your organization.
No. What I think she wants to understand is what is happening now, Saurabh. Most of the time, we all are working from home. Let us actually see from a very individual perspective, which I told, a desk, a desktop, or might be a laptop, which I am using as an individual, because A lot of practicing chartered accountants are independent, or might be some people who are working in the industry. Yes, their organization take care of those protections. But when we talk about we individuals or chartered accountants who are into practice and all, we are not exposed to that kind of secured environment and all. So in that case, what do you think we should do? Is it only that we switch off the system, or might be log off, or what do we have to do so that it is not exposed in a larger manner? Because we are just working on a regular general manner. So we have with us Manu sir also, who's come now, luckily. So what do you think we should be doing? In a general term, like, as an individual, tell me, as a whole system or an individual person who is into business or practice, for that person, what is the care that need to be taken so that the data can be protected?
Okay. First thing I would, this is something related to physical security. Do not write anything on the papers. First question. We keep writing. We as a CAs, right? We have a lot of passwords. So we keep writing it on the notebook, right? We go and keep the notebook on the table and we go out from the house, or else we simply tear the page and throw it in a dustbin, right? So that's the reason we have a shred. Please shred it, right? We simply tear it and then throw it in the dustbin. Any person goes to the room and find it. Yeah, there's a paper. The first thing we check from the audit perspective, we go and check the dustbins first. What is there in the dustbins? If there's a blank paper, what is written on the blank paper? Even there's a single digit written in the blank paper, we get catch of the organization. We mark them as a penalty. We check. So always make a habit of do not write anything on the blank papers. Use the keywords, which actually manages the user's name and the password. Make a habit of this, and to make it more secure way, keep changing your passwords. Make it a big password, a string maybe, difficult to remember, and then immediately once you go out, you lock it, and once you come back, you sign into the application, and then again you have the key vault available, right? You can save your username and the password if you maintain a lot of users. Right? So the password maintenance vault would be a much easier job for you, because that would be in the encrypted way. That is only available once you sign into the system. So make this habit and do not write anything on the test desk or on a blank paper, or if it's written also, don't simply throw it in a dustbin. Burn it or shred it.
And because Manubhai has come, I think welcome Manubhai, but I'll just take one question before I think Manubhai again left, I think. Okay, I'll just take one question because I'm just trying to get the common questions only. Vijay Kale sir is asking, when I make payment of income tax, which normally we do this income tax and GST payment, it gives a message that this site security has expired. Then what are the vulnerabilities?
It can be related to your session-related vulnerabilities. You have to check whether it's running on the SSL. If not, your credit card or debit card digits can be hijacked. I take a scenario with this. Whoever asked this question, I do not remember the name, but yeah, there is a vulnerability was launched in 2013. It's named as Heartbleed. So it has made us stay in office for a whole day because it was OpenSSL. Same thing happened. It was OpenSSL. It's a zero-day attack. Zero-day attack is something where the vulnerability is present, but there is no way of securing it. We don't know how to secure it. So Heartbleed, just how attacked by some person. All the credit card details were going in the plain text. So it was very difficult for us to all the servers from the bank perspective have done all the way best. So if you make the payments through such gateways, I assist that. I mean, I would say that do not trust those gateways to make payments. Always make a trusted gateway to make the payments, because if it's non-secured, it's of course can lead to the data loss, can lead to your confidentiality leakage. So, yeah.
And just combining the two questions, which I think again is common. First is from Ketan Siroya. How much it is safe to use mobile bank application? And I'll also take Nikisha Inani's question, a similar thing. Which is more preferable for making banking transactions? browser's incognito mode or antivirus specific applications like Quick Heal Safe Banking?
Whenever you go on technology side is more dangerous mode you are into. So you are on mobile. Let's go one by one. They also ask some security questions. If you use ICICIbank.com, let's say example, it always asks you the digits of the backside of the debit card, right?
Yes.
To enter TBD, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way authentication to do it. They always map it with the mobile number, which is actually authenticated with the bank. If you try to access this mobile application from some other number, you will not be allowed. First, banking applications through incognito is always preferable because why? Because this can your cookies are not being saved. I take example again. Incognito means it will not save the cookie, but as these banks are more secure these days, so your cookie gets expired, as spoke in the session management as well, right? So even if you work it on the incognito, yeah, it's of course safe, but anyways, even if your cookie is saved, when you log out, this cookie will be of no use.
One question we are answering, I think two more are coming, Saurabh. You can also just peep in from the down and just see if you are the best person to know what is important and all. Thereby, we can.
Let me just quickly look at.
Yeah. And how frequently are the security programs modified, changed in financial institutions and financial intermediaries?
It depends again whether the patch management is available. Whenever we apply any patch, whenever we upgrade the systems, so we have a practice of, like, let's say Microsoft always do it, release the patch on Tuesdays. So you would see that Microsoft always upgraded on Tuesdays. So this again depends upon the organization.
On home, David, can you just check, is Manubhai coming? On home networks with personal laptops, what are the essentials to be installed to secure the data and stay less vulnerable to the threats?
Always upgrade your system and use the latest OS. And if it's a banking transactions, make a VM install inside it and run Linux maybe. Or if not, then let's not make it so complicated. Always use the latest Windows version, the paid version, not to go with the free version, the cracked version. It's always you cannot upgrade it, right? You will get caught. So you buy a Windows. It will not cost you much, maybe 5,000. But if you save that 4,000 or 5,000, if some fraud happens, then you will end up paying a lot. So don't think this perspective. Buy latest Windows. Spend on that part and keep upgrading it. Is free of cost from the Windows Microsoft Center, right? So that I would suggest.
David, there are still 24 questions to be answered. I think
one question which is there, Pankaj bhai, 631. 631.
1 second. Yeah, the question is yes.
When we are subscribing to cloud-based application.
Suresh Kata Venkata, when we are subscribing to cloud-based application, what type of precautions to be taken? What type certifications the service provider needs to obtain, such as ISO 27001, etc.?
Okay. Then again, it depends, right? The different organizations have their own standards. So, I mean, you don't have to worry about that you are actually logging into this cloud. You are, first of all, how you're aware that it's running on the cloud. The environment is just hosted on the cloud side. How do you aware? For you, it's just a web application interface. You're not aware whether it's on the cloud side or it's on the data or in the data center, right? So nothing to worry about that. You just keep, if you want to see more, there's a lock thing you would see on the top of it, left hand side. You click on that part and you would see the certificates, which certificate is being installed and which is the algorithm being used. You would see for banking application, if you click right side, if you see the certificates, right, it would show as RSA. So one of the best technique we follow. So if you're that much confused, you can always check the certificates on the secured lock, which is actually mentioned on any websites.
Pankaj bhai, Manu sir has come.
Welcome, Manu sir.
Because his network is actually very poor. Manu sir?
Manubhai, you have to unmute and talk.
Manu sir?
It's raining heavily in Delhi, I think.
No, Kanpur.
Kanpur, Mr. Yes,
Not Delhi.
I think we will just try to send you the
Pankaj,
questions.
yeah, save the question now. I think we can conclude with one or two questions, Pankaj bhai. And I'll talk to Manu sir, no problem. We are missing out to listen from him.
Hello, Devai.
Yes, sir.
Welcome,
Can you
Manu
hear
bhai.
me? Thank you. I was trying for a long time, but here the condition is very bad and the connectivity is very poor. My video is not coming, so I've switched off my video. But really, congratulations on the wonderful topic you've chosen. I would have loved to listen to the whole talk, but unfortunately, the connectivity issue was so bad today that I'm still unable to connect properly. I do not know whether you people can hear me or not. But
No, we
your
are.
topic of ethical hacking is wonderful and has a lot of potential for us as chartered accountants also.
So Manu bhai, only one question for you as a chairman of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, and as a vice chairman, I am asking you that question on behalf of all the members. That is Institute of Chartered Accountants of India Digital Accounting and Assurance Board going to start a certification course on ethical hacking?
We'll definitely look into it thereby, and basically listening to your question, I feel it is a demand of a lot of members, but we'll just see how it can fit in. And personally, if you ask me, I would love to have that as a topic, because today we extract a lot of information from the GST websites, from the income tax website, and all of that is ethical hacking, because you can take data from there. But since you're using it ethically, so it's allowed. So I would love to have that session, and we'll look into the modalities. And as far as my being the chairman, I think you have equal rights, and you've been doing wonderful work in this whole board. So there is no need even to ask me. I think you have that authority, and you will do whatever is in the best interest of the institute.
Thank you, Manu bhai. But having you today is really an opportunity to be with. Yes, with a lot of disturbance, but we would have actually loved to hear you, because you yourself are a technology person. And
I'll definitely choose some other time. Today it was very unfortunate. I would have loved to listen to the whole talk. But well, any other question? I think now the voice part is at least clear.
Yeah. So I think more or less we are almost there. We were just waiting for you because we wanted to give some homework to Saurabh. A chartered accountant always leave a technical person with some kind of homework back home. So we'll give him that question answers, which are questions which are not answered. So Pankaj bhai, I think that is something which we need to really look into.
But thereby, I need to tell you that you are actually arranging very wonderful programs in the Center of Excellence, and it's really good to see all these types of programs, these new topics and these wonderful things. Really great job, and I think you must continue this, and it's a great initiative.
Yes, sir. And Arminder Singh Bahalji is there with us, who is the new consultant dean appointed for the Center of Excellence. Okay. He is actually working very hard on designing the new courses in Center of Excellence, Manu, and hopefully, this part is going to be with Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. We are going to develop this.
Sure.
Yeah. So thank you, Manu bhai, for joining us.
Thank you, Saurabh. It was one of the best sessions. In fact, that's what I was just telling you. After listening to you, I don't know how comfortable I'll be using the system, doing the banking transactions and all. And frankly, the good old days were good old days only. While technology, we always used to. There was one topic in our school essay when I'm talking about 70s science, boon or bane. Yes, Vigyan, Vardhan, yeah, Abhishav. It was there in every essay writing question. And I think now I was just recollecting about it. And now, yeah, if maybe today I start writing, I'll start it as Abhishav only and not Vardhan on the lighter side. Bahel Sab, and thank you very much, Bahel Sab. If you can just give the formal note of thanks, I think we can close it.
So I would first love to thank Manu Agarwal ji. First time I've heard him, and that we are going to be given a lot of new areas to research and undertake programs. I'm very thankful to him for giving us valuable guidance. I'm very thankful to our chairman, Hyderabad, Pankaj Trivedi ji, who always gives me lots of motivation. His lovely smile and motivating words, as well as the entire support for every webinar. Virtually, we are just there to hold the speaker, give the talk. Rest, everything is done by Pankaj Trivedi ji, and I'm very, very thankful to you, sir, for always supporting me. Sir, I'm very, very thankful to Daya Nivas ji, a great leader. I must say, I've never seen a person who is always positive in the darkest periods of time and always motivates everybody to rise up to standards that are laid down by him, which are very high. So you have to aim for the Mars if you want to reach the moon. And I'm very thankful to you, sir, for raising the standards, bringing out new things. I'm also very thankful to my executive officer, Mr. Ramanna, who helped out a lot in the technical part. Very thankful to all the attendees. There were nearly 350 attendees when we started, and over 330 at the time we were about to finish. And now I see they're coming down because they have realized that it's vote of thanks. But there were a large number of attendees. I'm very thankful to them for taking out their time, for trying to learn a new thing. And I can assure you it's a very tough topic. It's not very easy to understand. And they did listen to it very patiently. I'm very thankful to our speaker, who has spared his valuable time. I know that he's very busy. I know he works on Saturdays, Sundays. I also know how he's doing multiple things, and this is not the only thing. He's doing so many programs, working for Infosys, and simultaneously training many people across the world on ethical hacking as well as on security. I have learned a few things from him today. First, we are never secure. That I have learned. Second thing I've learned is don't use Windows 7. Use anything but don't use Windows 7. So Windows 10 is what I've done. Last week only I removed my Windows 7 and got it to Windows 10 and got myself reformatted. Then he says, every time you get a mail, please check whether it's a legitimate person who has sent that mail or not. Third thing he says is, every time you finish your session, please log out, please switch off, get out completely from the system. Don't leave anything hanging, and don't remain logged into any sites or any cookies. Don't leave them hanging. He's told us very clearly, because they are the ones through which a hacker will just come in, clean out your system. He said, be patient with OTPs. And please use OTPs, because OTPs are the last layer of security. And lastly, that I've learned from him, there are companies that you buy your antivirus from. Remember, I use TrueHeal. I was told TrueHeal is good. Norton is good. So, but do not go for free antivirus, and do not go for antivirus that are cheap. I'm very thankful to you for telling us. I know you are patient with us because your knowledge is so deep. You feel it is so easy for somebody to understand. Why nobody is understanding application interface? It is not like this. I also didn't know what is API. I asked you some time back, what is API? And you explained to me. So there, please understand that most of us are laymen in security. Yeah,
Yes, of
and
course.
thank you very much for giving such a lovely talk and taking us through this journey of security. Thank you very much, sir. Jai Hind.
I'm very glad to be part of this session. I'm actually very much glad of it, and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk in front of you people, all big people. I can see all big personalities sitting in front of me. So it's always a glad moment for me. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for joining us. Really, indeed, a pleasure. This is just a beginning, and this topic is going to take all the chartered accountants to a different level. This is just a beginning, and you have done the opening batsman. And going forward, I can only tell you one thing, Saurabh. This is the start, but the fact is that we are going to have a online learning procedures on this particular topic. We are going to do some workshops. How these things happen. We are going to show going forward how ethical hacking happens also with a practical on the screen kind of learning experiences. So it's going to be something new. Friends, thank you very much. All you people have been there. But just remember one thing. This is just the beginning, and we are going to make it more larger. And bells up. Thank you very much for getting so and doing it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dayabai.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Manu.
Manu.
Thank you for joining us.
And thereby we can also have a session in DAB also for everybody in the country.
Yes, Manu, we should be doing a national webinar. That is for sure. I think
definitely you plan it out. You take the date and we'll plan it.
Positively, we'll do it. We'll do a national and we'll do a hands-on. I think, Saurabh, that is possible, right?
Yeah,
you can do hands-on. A person can actually log in and put the screen and do whatever kind of.
Yeah, there's some applications which are actually meant to be tested for testing perspective. So we can take example, and we can run the program and we can do the hands-on from that.
We'll do sometime. We'll be in touch with you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
In
program करूँ क्या?
Yeah.
1-2 मिनट थोड़ा.
हाँ, थोड़ा वो मेरे ख्याल से
ठीक है, एंड मीटिंग कर देता मैं, कॉल पे बात कर ले.
जी सर.